The movie opens with a farmer putting a scarecrow in a cornfield. Several crows can be seen circling high above before they swoop down and start pecking at the scarecrow. The scarecrow, who turns out to be a real woman, quickly regains consciousness. She tries to speak, but all she can let out is suppressed screams. Just then, a crow appears and pecks one of her eyeballs before flying away. In the next scene, a group of friends is seen pulling a car at a remote gas station. The girls, Ash and Devin, leave the car to relieve themselves, while the guys, Eli and Farbsy, stay in the car. Eli confesses to Farbsy that he's in love with Ash and intends to propose to her, but Farbsy tries to talk him out of it by saying it's too soon for him to make such mistakes, as they'll meet a lot of pretty girls when they go to college. While they're talking, something drops from the sky and lands on their windshield. When they get a closer look, they get horrified, realizing it's a thumb. The boys turn around to see where it came from, but all they see is a crow flying by. Eli's so terrified that he instantly wants to call the police, but Farbsy calms him down as he doesn't want to ruin their weekend trip. They try to brush it away with the windshield wipers, but this only makes the situation worse by smearing blood all over it. When they notice the girls coming, Eli tries to divert their attention while Farbsy throws the thumb under the car. Following this, they grab their stuff from the car and decide to head for the nearby lake. Just then, Devin notices Eli gazing at her through her shorts, and she also flirts with him a little. However, they're soon cut off when the other two get out of the car and rush to them. The group then heads towards Miller's Trail, and despite the no trespassing sign, they ignore it and continue. Moments later, they find a scarecrow in a cornfield and are surprised to discover that the birds are not scared of it. Ash finds a little crow on the ground and approaches it, but she panics when she sees it eating a human finger. However, Farbsy consoles her with a lie, saying that it's not a finger and that crows don't eat meat. In the meantime, we see a boy in rags rushing across the cornfields, screaming for help. He takes off the sack over his head, exposing that his mouth has been sewn. Then, out of nowhere, a man appears and pulls him back with a rope, ultimately killing him with a sickle. On the other hand, the group runs out of water, and the girls state that they're too exhausted to continue and want to go back. So the boys advise them to stop and rest, while they'll scout ahead and see how far the lake is. Moments later, the boys spot a lovely lake and invite the girls to see it. After taking off their shoes, everyone jumps into the lake to cool down and has fun swimming and splashing around. Sometime later, Eli and Ash get out of the water and sit by the lake, where he proposes to her by giving her a promise ring and expressing his love for her. Devin and Farbsy also come out of the lake, and Devin tells them that she isn't going to walk back since she's too exhausted. She then asks the boys to go get the car while they'll wait there. Shortly after the boys leave, Ash hears a strange noise coming from the bushes. She calls out to see if anyone is nearby, but receives no response. On the other hand, when the boys reach the main road, they discover that their car is gone. Farbsy screams so loudly in anger that the ladies can hear him in the distance. This frightens the girls and they hastily get up and run. Meanwhile, Eli becomes irritated by Farbsy's negligence in losing the car, and they fight while blaming each other. The girls eventually run into them and stop their fight. When they ask why they're fighting, Eli and Farbsy reveal that the car's been stolen. As they discuss what to do next, Ash notices a farmer and they all call him for help, but the farmer ignores them and walks away. The group then decides to approach the farmer in the hopes that he can help them. As they move in his direction, they come across a fence and cram themselves inside. However, Farbsy becomes scared to cross it, and when he does, he loses his balance and gets badly injured in the leg. While Farbsy lies on the ground screaming in pain, Eli takes off his shirt and wraps it around his leg to stop the bleeding. Then they carry the injured Farbsy into the fields, where they lean him against a scarecrow. Since they've lost their car and they're now starving and thirsty, Eli decides to go find help, and Devin immediately offers to go with them. Eli tells Ash and Farbsy to remain close to the scarecrow so that he'll know where to look for them. After walking for a while, Eli notices a barn and decides to go there, but Devin stops him and tries to seduce him. Eli tries to stop her at first, claiming that he doesn't want to cheat on Ash, but he soon succumbs to the temptation. On the other hand, Farbsy pulls out 2 Ziploc bags filled with weed to help him cope with the awful pain. He asks Ash to make him a big joint to smoke, which she willingly does. In the meantime, Eli hears whistling in the fields and asks Devin to stop and get up. All of a sudden, the farmer appears behind them and punches Eli in the face, knocking him unconscious. Devin panics and tries to flee, but she's immediately captured by the farmer, who then knocks her unconscious as well. Meanwhile, Ash and Farbsy are smoking a joint together when Farbsy informs her that he needs to take a dump. Ash is reluctant to accompany him, but because he's wounded, she takes him a little further into the bushes and comes back to the scarecrow. Next, the farmer brings Devin to a barn, where there lies a boy's corpse as well. He then places her on the chair and ties her to it. Devon regains consciousness at that moment and cries out for help, but the farmer puts a belt around her neck and seals her lips with a needle. Devon keeps screaming through the muffled sounds, but the farmer becomes irritated by the noise and hits her in the face, instantly knocking her out. Back at the cornfield, Farbsy is still taking the dump while Ash examines the scarecrow. She soon discovers that the scarecrow isn't filled with farming straw and has worms and maggots crawling inside of it. This terrifies her, and she urges Farbsy to hurry up. While Farbsy is still relieving himself, he hears someone whistling, but he doesn't pay much attention to it. On the other hand, the farmer returns to the barn with Eli's body and ties him to a chair. Then he enters another room and fills his syringe with a paralyzing liquid. As he prepares to inject Eli, Devon forces her mouth open and shouts at Eli to wake up. This causes the farmer to be angry, and he walks over to Devon and injects her with a sedative. He then takes a rag and covers her face. Meanwhile, Ash is growing anxious and scared since Farbsy has still not come back. Suddenly, a man grabs her from behind and tells her that trespassing there was a terrible mistake. He continues by telling her that she must follow him if she wants to survive. Despite her suspicions about the strange man who appeared out of nowhere, Ash has no choice but to trust him. Once they get to the barn, she notices their stolen car, and as they get inside, the man reveals that he is the farmer's son. He informs Ash that the scarecrows in the cornfields are alive and that his father is the one who puts them up. The man reveals that his mother was accidentally killed by trespassers a long time ago, which is why his father kills all intruders. Suddenly, they hear the farmer trying to open the door, so the man tells Ash to hide immediately. Farbsy's body is dragged inside by the farmer, who then ties him to the chair. He removes a cloth to reveal Eli, who also has his mouth sewn. The son ties Eli to a wooden cross as the farmer nails his right arm, causing Eli to scream in pain. All of this is too much for Ash to bear, so she screams at him to stop. She approaches the farmer and tries to stab him with a big screwdriver, but he easily stops her. Ash desperately looks at the farmer's son for help, but he's also helpless in front of his father. And just like that, the farmer ends up knocking her out. After that, Eli, who's strapped to a wooden cross, is taken by the farmers and placed in the middle of the cornfield as a scarecrow. Moments later, Ash regains consciousness with a mask covering her face. The son walks in and takes it off, telling her to be quiet. He then cuts her ties and urges her to leave immediately. When she inquires about her friends, he informs her that they're already in the field. Just then, the farmer suddenly appears and gazes at them with a cold stare. The son insists that none of them deserves to die and tries to persuade him to let go of the girl. He claims that although the intruders never intended to harm his wife, she was mistakenly killed. Ash then quickly manages to run off, while the farmer stabs his son in the neck, killing him on the spot. In the next scene, Ash is seen running across the cornfields trying to find her way out. When she comes upon a scarecrow, she takes off the mask, believing it to be Eli, but she's shocked to see Devon, who's already dead. Ash removes the nail from her hand and starts running again. Then she discovers another scarecrow, but as she approaches closer, it turns out to be the farmer in disguise. She becomes terrified and runs in the opposite direction, but the farmer catches her and slams her to the ground. Just then, Ash picks up the nail off the floor, strikes him in the face, and manages to run once again. Moments later, Ash hears a boy whimpering in the distance, and when she follows the sound, she comes across a scarecrow. When she removes the mask, she sees that it's Farbsy, who's shivering in terror. Ash desperately tries to take the nails out, but she's unsuccessful every time. Farbsy then points to a shovel on the ground, so she tries to free him with it. Suddenly, the injured farmer appears behind her and pushes her to the ground. As he tries to strangle her, Farbsy curses at him to divert his attention. And hearing this, the farmer turns to face the loudmouth. He attacks Farbsy with the shovel, instantly killing him, while Ash manages to escape once again. She gathers the courage to keep moving on, but when she hears the farmer whistling again, she trips and hits her head on a rock. Sometime later, Ash regains consciousness and notices a car in front of her where a couple is being intimate to loud music. Unable to walk, she crawls towards the car with every last bit of strength she has while screaming for help. The couple thinks they hear something, but when they check outside, they cannot see Ash since she is lying on the ground much closer to the car. Eventually, Ash manages to drag herself to the car and desperately reaches for the door handle. But unfortunately, the farmer arrives from behind and takes her into the fields. The next morning, we see Ash tied up on the cross as the farmer drags her and places her on the ground as a scarecrow. Then a crow appears out of nowhere and repeatedly attacks her. This causes her mask to fall off while she starts bleeding. The film concludes with Ash screaming in pain as she realizes that her friends are all dead and that she is the next in line.